Topping today's news, the country suffers its first homicide for the year. The government reacts to industrial action by the Trade Union Congress. Harbor Island residents frustrated with water and electricity challenges. And we hear more on how the government plans to reduce food prices by cutting out the middlemen. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jareno Saunders. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Last year, the Bahamas recorded its first murder on January 1st when a father was stabbed to death by his son during a domestic dispute in western New Providence. By January 13th last year, the country had already experienced 11 homicides when a man was stabbed to death at a bar near the Carmichael Road police station. The country recorded its first murder for 2025 early this morning. It happened shortly after midnight in the Big Pond community, claiming the life of a 27-year-old male. According to initial reports, the victim was outside of a home on Lakeshore Road off Tucker Road, along with two other individuals when a black American model sedan approached from Rupert Dean Lane. An occupant in that vehicle exited and discharged multiple gunshots in their direction, causing them to disperse. The suspect then sped off in a southern direction onto Water Street. The police responded and discovered the victim suffering from gunshot wounds to the neck and abdomen. The victim was transported to the hospital by emergency medical services, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Again, this is the first homicide for the year, although there have been several shootings and stabbing incidents prior to this incident. You are asked to contact the police if you have any information that can assist them with their investigation into this homicide. On the weekend, members of the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, that has up to 14 unions under its umbrella, announced plans to take industrial action beginning today after they say many of their concerns have not been met by the government. Here is TUC President, Attorney Obi Ferguson.
Despite regular meetings with the Honorable Prime Minister and ministers of the government, we have not been able to get the respect and support necessary to resolve many of our labor issues. All we got were promises and more promises. As my mother used to say, a promise is a comfort to fool. Well, we are not fools, and we now say enough is enough. In the morning, we will demonstrate that we have had enough, and the powers that be will feel the might of the workers. We will stand together and enjoy 2 days of rest. Together, we are stronger. We will not stop until all of our labor matters submitted to the PM have been addressed and resolved.
According to members of the TUC, there are a myriad of concerns that need to be addressed. Here is President of the Bahamas Nurses Union, Muriel Lightbourne.
Outstanding matters includes appointments, confirmations, promotions, reclassifications, insurances, allowances still not paid, loss of vacations, industrial agreements still not signed, and in some instances, employers refusing to come to the table, just to name a few.
Although the TUC has at least 14 unions under its umbrella, leaders of the Bahamas Utilities Service and Allied Workers Union, BUSAWU, and the Bahamas Union of Teachers, as well as the National Congress of Trade Unions, said they would not participate in the industrial action today and tomorrow. Prime Minister Philip Davis spoke to the issue in a statement issued on Sunday night. He focused in on Trade Union Congress President Obi Ferguson, who hinted last year that massive strike action could happen at any time. The Prime Minister said his diary shows that he had agreed to meet with the TUC at around 2 p.m. today. He asked, is it not in bad faith to agree to meet, then tell his members to go on strike? Mr. Davis said he is a Prime Minister that wants to resolve problems, but his concerns is for the well-being of the nation. Mr. Davis continued by saying the question one must ask is why would the head of the TUC want to inflict harm on the nation when the problems can be solved by discussions and not unlawful striking? However, Mr. Ferguson said the union is tired of promises by the government, argued that the strike is not unlawful as the unions applied and received the necessary strike certificates. Labor Minister Pierre Glover-Roll also issued a statement on Sunday saying that the meetings are ongoing, meetings with the labor unions, and there is an agreed timeline, to resolve the majority of the labor issues by the end of this month, in fact. She said it is unclear why the Trade Union Congress would engage in industrial action at this critical junction of the negotiations.
There is an agreed timeline to resolve the majority of the issues, some of which we have noted to be resolved by the end of the month. And so in light of this, I have to ask, what's the objective of a national strike when union leaders have already the ear and the full attention of our government? What's the purpose that this disruption will serve when the government is not only listening, but actively working towards solutions? So there's no breakdown in communication. In fact, I personally met with representatives of all local trade unions as recently as the third week in December. And during that meeting, we discussed each of their concerns. I was able to forward many of their matters to the Ministry of Finance to be actioned.
According to Glover-Roll, the government is expected to meet with unions during their next quarterly meeting in March in an effort to continue working together to resolve their outstanding issues. And finally, in this segment, last year, residents on Harbor Island took to the streets in protest to a lack of reliable water and electricity and internet services. The government took notice, pledged to address their concerns. While efforts have been made to begin to address the legacy issues, the challenges apparently remain, as residents on Harbor Island, North Eleuthera, were without water for several days last week. Danny Major, a lifetime resident of Harbor Island, expressed his frustration over the weekend.
Good evening, Brother Davis. 2025 election year is upon us. Now, Brother Davis, it's been 7 days, 7 long, hard days and nights. We haven't had water in our district on Harbor Island. Something's wrong with this picture. If I understand that nobody knows what's going on. You're all saying one thing, that the water, the lights fixed. But it ain't the water, it's the lights. What are you all doing? What are you all doing to ease the minds of the people of Harbor Island?
As the general elections approach and campaigns about to begin, Mr. Major had this message for Prime Minister Philip Davis and Leader of the Opposition, Michael Pintard.
I can tell you this, I don't know about the rest of the people in St. John's, but you cannot come back to the minister. I am fed up with you all, period. FNM, NPLP, because nobody does nothing for Harbor Island. This is the last time you'll hear from me, but you cannot come to my door. And that go for you too, Pintard.
In September last year, Clay Sweeting, the Minister of Works and Family Island Affairs and Member of Parliament for South and Central Eleuthera, said the water issues on Harbor Island had been mitigated and that a 300,000 imperial gallon water tank would improve the water supply there. In regards to the electricity woes, the government also said that progress was being made with the installation of new generators and repairing damaged power lines on the island. As for the water, in an update on Saturday, the Water and Sewage Corporation explained that Aqua Design, the company contracted to provide water, identified the source of the issues as a failure in the feeding line originating from the water well, resulting in the plant's shutdown until 6 a.m. on Saturday, January 11th. In the interim, Water and Sewage Corporation said it would transfer water from Central Eleuthera to provide relief for those areas that have been impacted. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.